Have you ever wondered what would happen if you became a national hero completely by accident? Well, today we're jumping into a fantastic old Indian folktale about a man who does exactly that, all thanks to a wild series of misunderstandings. This is the story of the brave potter. And that really brings us to the heart of the story. Was this potter a man of incredible, unbelievable courage? A true hero? Or was he maybe just the luckiest person who ever lived? The line between those two things can be surprisingly thin. So how in the world does a simple potter end up riding a tiger? You'd think it would start with some big, brave act, right? Nope. Our story actually begins with a simple complaint on a dark and stormy night. Okay, so picture this. It's a terrible night. Rain is pouring down. A huge old tiger, the king of the forest, is trying to get out of the storm. He finds a little hut and curls up right by the door to stay dry. But then, from inside, he overhears something that changes, well, everything. That's what he hears, an old woman inside, complaining. Now, we know what she's talking about, right? A leaky roof. But the tiger? He has no idea. All he hears is that there's some creature out there called a leek that this woman thinks is even scarier than him, the mightiest tiger in the land. And this, right here, is the misunderstanding that the whole story is built on. In the tiger's head, this leek is some kind of horrifying monster. In reality, it's just a drip of water. It's amazing, isn't it? A tiny mix-up with absolutely massive consequences. Perception just completely took over reality. Okay, so now let's see how things get even crazier. Because on that very same stormy night, our potter has had a little too much to drink. He's tired, he's grumpy, and he suddenly realizes his donkey is gone. He left it tied up outside in the storm. So here it is, the perfect recipe for creating an accidental hero. Fueled by palm wine and a whole lot of anger, the potter just stomps off into the dark, wet forest, muttering to himself about what he's going to do to that donkey when he finds him. He stumbles around for hours, and finally, he gets to the old woman's hut and sees a big animal huddled by the door. In his drunken haze, he doesn't see stripes, he doesn't see fangs. All he sees is his missing donkey. So he storms right up, yelling and kicking the animal. And that animal, of course, is the tiger, who is now 100% convinced that this angry man must be that terrifying leek he's been hearing about. So the potter literally drags the terrified tiger all the way home, ties it to a tree with a heavy iron chain, and passes out. You can just imagine the scene the next morning. The neighbors come out and can't believe their eyes. The potter has captured the very tiger that's been terrorizing their village for years. They're all praising his amazing courage. But the potter is just confused. He keeps insisting it was just his donkey, right up until he actually sees the tiger and promptly faints. So a few years go by, and the potter's reputation just grows and grows. He's known everywhere as the brave potter, the guy who caught a tiger with his bare hands. So, when a war breaks out with a powerful neighboring kingdom, the king decides he needs a legendary hero to lead his army. And well, there's only one name that pops into his head. I mean, the whole thing is just absurd. One day, he's a simple craftsman looking for a lost animal. The next thing you know, he's being made general of the entire army, all because of a misunderstanding he can't even begin to explain. His whole reputation is built on a story that he doesn't even recognize. The potter is, as you can imagine, absolutely terrified. He tells his wife, "This is all that donkey's fault." How can he possibly be a general? The man has never even ridden a horse, let alone held a sword. For him, this isn't an honor, it's a death sentence. And this brings us to the climax of the story. On the morning of the big battle, the potter decides he has to at least try to learn how to ride a horse. So he and his wife sneak out to the stables at dawn, hoping for a quick practice session before he has to lead an entire army into war. His plan for this is, well, it's not exactly standard military procedure. To keep from falling off, he has his wife literally tie him onto the horse. His feet are tied to the stirrups, his waist is tied to the saddle, and just for good measure, his hands are tied to the horse's neck. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And just as his wife is tying the very last rope, the magnificent warhorse gets spooked. It rears up, breaks free, and just bolts out of the stable at full speed with the potter hanging on for dear life, tied on like a sack of potatoes. And of course, the horse runs directly toward the enemy camp. This is the moment. As they're racing across a field, the potter, in a total panic, grabs onto a young tree, hoping to stop the horse. But the horse is way too powerful. It doesn't even slow down. It just yanks the entire tree, roots and all, straight out of the ground. And here we go again. It's all about perspective. The reality is, it's just a man in pure terror accidentally holding a tree. But what does the enemy army see? They see this giant general, the famous Tiger General, charging at them so fiercely that he's pulling trees out of the ground with one hand. The enemy sentry just screams in terror, and that news spreads through their camp like wildfire. The Tiger General is coming. He has the strength of a giant, and he's leading a massive army. The entire enemy force completely panics and just flees for their lives. By the time the potter's horse finally stops inside the enemy camp, it's completely empty. He manages to untie himself, falls to the ground shaking, and discovers that he has single-handedly and completely by accident won the entire war. And there, inside the king's tent, he finds a letter of surrender. The potter, totally bewildered, but also pretty relieved, just walks back to his own city. He hands the letter to his wife and tells her he's going to bed and that he never, ever wants to ride a horse again. And here's the final perfect irony. As he's walking back through the cheering crowds, everyone sees him refusing to ride a horse, not as a sign of terror, but as a sign of incredible humility. His legend as the brave and humble hero is sealed forever. The king rewarded him so generously, he never had to work another day in his life. And you know what? He was true to his word. Despite being the most celebrated general in the entire country, the number of times the potter ever got on a horse again was exactly 0. So that leaves us with this one last thought. The potter was celebrated, he was rewarded, and he was remembered as this great hero. But was it his actions that made him heroic, or was it the incredible story that everybody else told about him? It really makes you wonder, what's more powerful, a brave deed or just a really, really great story?